There's a lot of concern about AI and cheating. There are a lot of studies before AI, and cheating was already rampant. 97% of them said they had cheated within the last year.
Are you ready for one of the most refreshing conversations around AI that I've personally had in a long time? Welcome to Toddle's School Leaders Project. I'm your host, Cindy Blackburn, and today I'm talking with KaTrina Wentzel. I actually found KaTrina on LinkedIn, and she created this amazing post that broke down the AI vicious cycle. Well, she reimagined this as the AI empowerment cycle, and her thinking was just so beautiful. So today we talk about student-centered learning and how AI can be used not just to shortcut learning, but to deepen and strengthen it. You're not going to want to miss a single second, so let's jump into the episode. KaTrina Wentzel, I'm so excited to have you here on the School Leaders Project. Thanks so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh, thanks so much for asking me to join you.
So fun. I found you on LinkedIn and you developed the most incredible post about AI and the empowerment cycle. So might you kind of set the stage of the work that you do and your thinking around AI?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for finding me,
Yeah.
by the way. So yeah, I'm a director of learning design for an organization called Redesign. Before that, I was in schools for a very long time, over 2 decades, both as a teacher and a school administrator. And so education is very tied to my identity and to how I think about the world. And you cannot be thinking about education or really anything right now without thinking about AI. And so it's tied in many ways. It's tied to the schools I work with, the individuals I work with, the students I try to serve in my own work as a designer. All of this is tied to AI. So yeah.
Very cool. And you reimagined a cycle. It was like the AI, almost the existential dread cycle we've heard of like, a teacher creates the AI assignment, the student uses AI, then the teacher uses it to grade, and then you kind of reimagine that. So can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, it was making its rounds, and I think it was called the AI vicious cycle. And
Mhm.
it was, entertaining for sure. And it also, funny, a bit tongue in cheek, but it also, I thought, spoke to our greatest fears, right? That somehow AI was going to take over everything and learning wouldn't even be happening at all.
Mm,
Um, and and I thought, funny, yes, but not great to feed into our fears in that way. And so I was trying to think about, like, so what do I think is the ideal of AI? Because it's not going anywhere.
right.
You can't put it back in the box, just like you can't put the internet back in the box or word processing back in the box. It's here. So really thinking about, how do we want to have AI help with teaching and learning versus supplant it? Um, Felt like a good thought exercise for myself. And as I was thinking, like I said, I'm a learning designer, so I design as I think, and then I shared it. So that's how it came to be.
Well, it's super cool and just very optimistic. And I think to me, it shows, I think you and I have really similar roots in learner-centered pedagogy.
Mhm.
And those of us who have been thinking this way for a while of how do we keep the learner at the center,
Yep.
AI obviously impacts that, but it feels a little less scary maybe. So might you talk about that experience with learner-centered pedagogy, what that means to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, in a very, very big, broad brushstroke, right? Learner centered pedagogy is about taking what we actually now know about learning, about development, and applying that instead of just trying to maintain traditional teaching practices.
Mhm.
So, that's very broad. I think more specifically, it's about developing agentic learners who don't see an adult as the sole arbitrator of knowledge, but instead are participating in creating their own learning. There are lots of ways that we do this in the classroom. I think most commonly we think of student voice and choice, but it's more than that, right? So it's about creating more opportunities for student reflection and metacognition. It's about letting learners not just decide what they're going to create, but really like what are they going to learn? How are they going to learn? And how are they going to demonstrate their learning? It is about using assessment, not just assessment of learning, but for learning and as learning. It's about really getting to know your learners and putting their needs individualized at the forefront. So it's big and round. There's so many ways to approach it, but it's core to what I believe that we should be focusing on.
Me too, my friend. Well, and what I love about AI entering the picture is that it feels like so many of these ideas, these best practices that have been kind of percolating in the education world forever, I mean, since the
Yeah.
60s, 70s, 80s, are now becoming so much more necessary. Like,
Yeah.
especially assessment. We've talked about the value of process over product and assessment forever. Can you talk about how AI really put like an exclamation mark on that need?
Yeah, I love how you put that. It is an exclamation mark on it because we have for a very long time, I mean, as long as I've been in education, I've only known educators who, sing from the rooftops like learning is more important than the grades, process is more important than product. But we unintentionally don't give that message when the only thing we're grading is the final product.
Right.
When we show exemplars to students and they are beyond actually what many students can do, and we try to like find that most amazing thing that somebody once turned in and we hold on to it for 6 years as the exemplar because nobody else has come close, like what are we actually saying, right, to students? And so I think about what it means when AI can instantly make a better product, most likely, than most of our students or even ourselves, right? And it
Right.
can do it so fast. Um, and when we think about things like cheating, for instance, and maybe we'll talk about this, there's whole concern, of course, about AI and cheating, but there's a lot of studies on cheating and some of the things that lead to it. I'm going to go down a little rabbit hole, maybe, and a tangent for a second to talk about cheating. But um, there's a lot of concern about AI and cheating. And the interesting thing is that there are a lot of studies before AI, and cheating was already rampant.
Hmm.
Um, I'm most convinced by the work of Challenge Success, and they had a huge study where students were self reporting. 97% of them said they had cheated within the last year.
Woof.
97%. This was before AI. And it's something like around 75% said they had cheated more than 4 times in the past year, right? So, and you can find other studies, they're roughly around those same numbers. And so, to me, the worry about AI and cheating isn't actually about the cheating, it is the type of cheating, maybe. It's
Mm.
about the ease of which one can cheat, maybe, right? So then you have to look at what do we actually know about cheating? And we know that students are less likely to cheat when they feel like they belong. Two, when the work feels relevant. Three, when they don't feel time pressure.
Mm.
Four, when they don't feel grade pressure, right? So now going back to your previous question, um, thinking about process versus product. If AI can create that product super fast, can do it better than I can, and what is being valued and where I feel the pressure around a grade or what I feel around not being connected to the assignment, all of those things, right, make it easy to look at AI as a choice.
Hmm.
But if what the teacher is creating in the classroom is one, an environment of care and belonging, two, are agentic assignments where students can find meaning in it, and three, if I have to grade, what I'm grading along the way is your process,
Right.
then, and this might be a little controversial, I would care less how A helped you with the product. Um, because you've shown your learning in your process. And if
Mm.
that really is what we value, then yeah, let's learn, let's do the process, and then let's work together to see how AI can help you take that learning and those ideas and make the best product. Like, let's do that together transparently. Like, that would be my thought on that. Now, of course, there are exceptions, but I think in a general mindset, thinking about how we can really show a value of process. Um, I'm thinking of Tony Frontier. I don't know if you've seen some of his work lately. He's an author, educator who has some really interesting stuff out right now about cheating versus integrity with AI. And he talks about um, when we think about cheating, we're we're trying to catch you doing something wrong. And it's going to be a never ending battle. When we're talking about integrity, we're trying to catch you doing something right. And we're going to find a whole lot of that with young people, right? And so when we focus on integrity, it's not did you cheat? It's can you show me your learning? Did you document your process? Can you now explain and even go deeper into what you created?
Mm.
That then it becomes less about did you use AI versus did you learn?
Right.
And that's where I'm hoping we can get.
Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Toddle, your all in one teaching and learning platform made for teachers and by teachers. So many of the tools that KaTrina and I talk about in this episode are central to what we do at Toddle. Things like AI powered tutors or being able to personalize lesson plans at the click of a button using AI. So if you want to take the guesswork out of AI in teaching and learning, check us out at toddleup.com. Now, back to the episode with KaTrina. Well, because how we learn and how we work is changed forever because of this technology. Like any of us who are using AI consistently, it it's changing our brains, how we think, how we do work. And you might have feelings one way or the other about that, but it's not going away. So the question becomes, how do we help students to recognize what they actually care about and what their strengths are and what they'd like to learn more about and leverage AI as that tool versus just offloading the thinking.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And AI won't be the answer to everything. AI will, I'm sure, just in the ways that we don't let any tool be used for all things. There will be times that learners have to do things without AI, times when they can do it with AI. And we have to individually, as schools, as individuals in classrooms, um, figure out what those boundaries are and what that looks like in our particular spaces. But I do think just being an anti AI or seeing AI only as cheating is not going to be helpful moving forward.
Oof. Well, I think that brings the next kind of big question to the picture, which is AI literacy.
Oh.
And a bunch of questions come to mind. AI literacy is kind of top of my mind right now. And I'm wondering if you've seen it being done well in schools. Like
Mm.
specifically, like is it being taught in a disciplinary function? Is it more of an interdisciplinary where all AI teachers? Are there frameworks that you're using that are working? What's been your experience so far?
I don't think we're there yet. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it yet, and I don't expect to have seen it yet. I think we are frantically trying to figure things out. I do think I'm seeing movement though. A couple years ago, 2.5 years ago, when Chat GPT first kind of blew up, um, I saw, I mean, the threads I was on, I was an academic dean at the time,
Mm,
so you can imagine. And everybody was moving very quickly to like cheating policies. It
Right.
all was about,
Actually, protection.
yeah. And software to try to catch cheating, and that was the initial response. Now I'm seeing a much greater move to, yeah, okay, we have to have some policies around this, but this is really about how are we going to ensure that young people know how to use AI ethically and smartly.
Right.
And what does that mean about what we need to teach? What does it mean about what they need to practice? What
Mm.
does it mean about assignments? The other thing I remember early on was this kind of, I don't know, flippant, maybe, certainly easy response of, oh, it just demonstrates what teachers have to do differently. And you just need to AI proof all your assignments and all your assessments. And the
Mm.
reality is, I think we know now, like AI proofing isn't really possible, right? So it should help shed a light on, oh my goodness, yeah, I could do this differently and I could make this um, so that a student is speaking more from their personal experience or their own, there are definitely things we can do.
Right.
But the idea of an AI proofed curriculum, I don't think is possible. So that's the other piece tied to it. So, AI literacy, there are a number of frameworks that have come onto the scene in the past few months, especially. And I'm thinking of the AI EDU framework that came out, the European Commission framework that came out, UNESCO came out with one. And
Do you have
um,
a favorite?
well, more recently, OECD and European Commission, along with Code.org. Have you seen it? Yes.
That's
So
my favorite
yes,
one.
yes. This just came out recently. Their draft, it's in draft form and they're taking feedback, which I love. But what I really like is they took a bunch of frameworks and looked at like what's the Venn diagram of these? What are we seeing? And so it's almost like, a super framework. And I really love the way they've designed it to with thinking about different users and different use cases. I think it's really good, really good. And I hope it is, right? And I hope people put it into action in the ways that make sense in their context,
Yeah.
um, because
What's
it's a
sorry.
great resource.
What stands out to me about it is that so many of the frameworks I saw before were so knowledge based and almost to a myopic level of the
Yeah,
kinds of things they said kids needed to know about AI that I was like, I don't know these things and I'm using it just fine. You
right.
know,
Yes.
I think the fact that this one is like, yes, there's some knowledge identified, but it's so much more skill and attitude based is
Yeah.
like, it's what I've been waiting for. And I just am like voraciously unpacking it right now.
We need to have another party where we unpack it together because I am the same. I've been sharing it with people at work and with some of my clients and just like take a look at this. I think similarly, so something to maybe know about me is I'm a big proponent of competency based education. It is my wheelhouse. It's where I work. And um, some of the other frameworks, as you speak about, they're almost more like standards.
Right.
And the grain size can be really small. And I'm not sure that's really what we need right now. If I were to think of AI literacy overall, I would think we want students to be able to know when it's a helpful tool, to know which AI tool might be helpful, to be able to use it ethically, and to be able to use it as a co creator. We need them to be flexible in their thinking um, and their approach to AI, and we
Yeah.
want them to be ethical with it and transparent with it. The nuances of what that means is going to be rapidly changing all the time. If you would have asked me how I used AI a year ago to today, it's different
Mm.
because the tools are constantly like you cannot keep up with the number of tools available, what they can do, how they can help. We've seen all this scary numbers about what it might mean for the workplace and job replacement. But what's become really clear is that being able to use AI and adapt to whatever tool is in front of you will become an important skill.
Well, and I find that heartening is the more you talk to people who are really deep in the space of AI, the more that they trust in humanity. Like I feel like has been kind of
Yeah,
the vibe that, yeah, AI is a very powerful tool on its own, but where it's amplified is when it's partnered with an expert human brain. So
absolutely.
how do we make these expert human brains who can train their AI as their apprentice to supercharge themselves?
Yes, yes. Did you see recently Google released portraits? Have you seen this?
No, I saw their agents, but not portraits. What
So
is
they
it?
have something called portraits, um, and they have just created one. You can put in a request to have a portrait made of you. So maybe you'll do this. But basically, experts are training AI on their kind of intellectual property, on their ideas, and you can talk with this expert directly through their AI person, right? So, I mean, that's where we are today. Where will we be in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? I don't know.
Girl, we can't even fathom,
Yeah.
which is like beautiful and terrifying.
Yeah.
So fun. I think at the heart of this, though, like when people are hearing about these tools, when they're hearing about the change to the workplace and the way people are learning, there's just so much fear
Yeah.
around AI replacing good teaching. So,
No, I just don't believe it. I just don't
same.
believe it. So um, first of all, AI won't replace teachers. What it will replace is some of the work of teachers, perhaps, right? Depending on your environment. But it will not replace teachers. First of all, more than ever, I think we need to double down on the importance of human connection. And
Right.
that does not go away with AI. In fact, we need to ensure it. And some of the most important things that happen in a classroom beyond the academic learning is that students learn how to build community, how to sustain their own wellness and well being in the broadest sense of those words. They learn how to navigate conflict. They learn what their personal needs are for space, for communication, for
Mhm.
all of those things um, are really essential. And a skilled teacher helps develop that in young people. Beyond that, it is not just product, which again, AI is really good at, it is the process. And process requires a skilled teacher regardless. And the learning experiences will be put forth by a skilled teacher. Even if AI helps them build that learning experience, it is the teacher who will be putting it forth. I do not see that going away. In fact, I think teachers will become more valuable than ever.
I greatly agree. And I think in general, it just does open up the door, like we've been saying, of the practices that we've known are best practices, things like tutoring, really deeply personalized learning that were simply impossible before. If you had 20 students or more in your classroom to try to deeply personalize for each learner was just too cumbersome until AI. And
Yeah.
I think that's where there's so much excitement for me is that just the craft level can go up. So I wonder if you might share, have you seen an example where AI has really deepened the learning rather than shortcutting it?
Yeah, absolutely. And um, as you say this, as you talk about the personalized learning, and we talked in the very beginning about what makes learner-centered pedagogy, and I think about the importance, like we know for learning, the importance of the brain making connections,
Right.
which is why, whenever possible, if we can attach learning to something that a young person is interested in or passionate about or into in the moment, um, and a teacher, can you imagine, like, I'm teaching equations and inequalities, and For you, Cindy, you're really into music. So your problem set is going to be around music, and your problem set is going to be around flowers, and yours is going like that's not really possible. It is with AI
Right.
that can customize in that way. But when I want to shout out a couple teachers here who somewhat recently shared two things with me. So one is a world language teacher, Spanish teacher, Mariah Buckley, and she was talking about the game changer it has been having students use AI to as conversational coaches for homework. And she said two things. So one, using an AI program that will listen to them speak and give them feedback around pronunciation, around, I don't think that verb conjugation was just right, is one, helping them deepen their speaking in a way that they couldn't do at home before because nothing was telling, they were just continuing the patterns of whatever they were doing. And two, the confidence it has brought as they then go to class where they are expected to speak aloud and to
Mm.
converse. The confidence has gone up, the speaking has gotten better, and it's not because they're shortcutting anything. In fact, they're probably speaking more at home than they were before. The second example that comes to mind is a physics teacher, John Breton, who he said something almost in passing, but I cannot let it go. And he said, I love AI that helps me go fast and my students go slow. And what he was talking about was the kind of AI that helps him put together something for students faster than it would have taken him, but it actually slows them down in their process and their thinking. And he
Mm.
gave an example, and I actually tried it, uh, of like this physics problem, and as you're solving it, the AI is asking you questions like, "Why did you do that? What were
Cool.
you thinking here?" Right? And so it slows down my process, and then John, as a teacher, gets all that information on the back end, and he can see, right? And he can use AI to help him analyze a whole class or a number of classes to see like what patterns, where are students getting stuck, where is thinking not quite aligning with where we want it to. And then he can do some targeted instruction on that. So this idea of slowing down students who sometimes want to rush through things just to get to the answer, but also speeding it up for the teacher so they can have more time for targeted interventions with students, like that to me I think is another really great example of deepening learning.
Well, because what you just described is making thinking visible. And
Exactly. Yes.
how gorgeous those routines have been in whole group settings and in vertical spaces that we as teachers can see and instantly respond. And
Right.
what it's doing is taking the power of making thinking visible that oftentimes was a whole group activity done in person, and it's making it personalized one on one while still retaining that instant feedback piece,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is just like,
I know. Did you ever think we'd see this?
gosh, I mean, no,
I
like,
know.
no, who could have imagined it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think it can, I don't want to sugarcoat things or be a Pollyanna. There are some real concerns that we need to attend to. And I think the possibilities, if we are attentive to them, can actually be so tremendous.
Hmm.
And I really hope that's where we lean as individuals, as schools, as communities, as districts, and as a country and as a world. So, small to big. I want it
Yeah.
all.
But in essence, what you're describing is a shift from a curiosity or from a compliance culture towards a curiosity culture.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, I'm sure there are a lot of school leaders listening to this and feeling a little bit of that pit in their stomach of like, ooh, I'm still at the just stop kids from cheating with it phase.
Yeah.
And this sounds great, and I'd love to be more curious. What are kind of the baby steps towards
Mm.
curiosity over compliance?
It's a good question. So one, I would say be open to co-creation. And I don't just mean co-creation students use AI, co-creation of your policies with young people.
Hmm.
Co-creation, like Bring young people together and your teachers together and talk about what are we excited about with AI? What are we worried about AI? Like, let this not be like something where some kids feel like they have to hide in shame if they used AI. Other kids are, bragging they cheat. Like, let us put everything out in the open and determine in our community, like, what makes sense, what uh what do we want to make sure we have boundaries around, what do we want to try. I would say be open to having pilots as a starter. Find your teachers who are like, I have been digging um, Inkwire for helping me create performance tasks. And I'm finding that I can use an old project and actually make it richer. And I really want to dive deeper, and I want to work with students on how they can use AI. Let that teacher do that,
Cool.
right? Like, start with some pilots. If you're unsure on doing whole scale things, I guarantee you have somebody or a group of people who are really willing to try it out. And I would say give them the space. But co creating with young people, with your teachers, to think about what are our policies, what are our edges, what do we value, how can we stay true to our values and our mission as a school while embracing technology that we know you will all have to use someday. And
Right.
quite frankly, that you probably already are.
I adore that. So what I'm hearing there is really just play, honestly, is there's an element of play and curiosity and just kind of openness to, "Well, what do you think? Okay, this is the policy we have to keep us safe. And we had to put this in place. We had to cover our bases and can't have a boat with a hole in it,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
love.
we've patched the hole in the boat. Now let's start thinking about setting sail and what might that look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love your analogy. That's great. Yes. Yes, set sail, definitely. And, if you need to set sail and just stay in the bay for a little bit, that's okay too, right? But leave the dock.
So apart from kind of piloting and revisiting and co-creating policy, are there other pieces of advice you have for schools just starting this process of integrating AI into classrooms?
Yeah. Um, One, I'd recommend setting time aside for sharing. So I'm thinking right now of working with adults in a building. What can often happen in schools is we say, okay, have at it. And then there's no time to share, to workshop, to
Mm,
reflect together, right? So build that into your schedule. If you have monthly meetings, make the first 10 minutes always going to be a pair share about AI, what you're trying, and then a share out. Set a PLC, create a PLC for people trying AI and where they can workshop each other's things. Um, we talk about it at Redesign. One of my favorite things at Redesign is it's specific to competency based education, but I actually think it can be generalized everywhere. And we refer to it as culture of care and learning. It specifically has four things for us. One is any change that you're going to begin to do, begin by looking at what are the mindsets necessary for this to be successful, and do we need to spend time to shift mindsets?
mm.
Because if you just jump into we're all doing the AI, but people are holding mindsets that aren't compatible with that, it's not going to be successful. So taking time to consider the mindsets and doing some mindset shifting if needed. The second is communication. How are you communicating internally and externally? So, what are you telling parents and families and guardians about AI because they might be worried? How are you talking to kids? How are you talking to your faculty? So, communication. The third is belonging. How do we use this change, whatever the change is, in this case, maybe AI implementation, increasing our sense of belonging? And how can we address loss, real loss that people might feel in the process?
There's grief. Yeah.
Right? There's grief.
But I always taught papers this
I
way.
always taught papers this way. And teachers, like, our jobs are highly tied to our identity often.
They are.
So
Yeah.
it's not just about teaching, it's about who I am as a person when I think about changing my teaching, right? So attending to the people
Mm,
is the third. And then the fourth is professional growth. What are we doing so that everybody has the skills they need and the practice and the time and the whatever else to attend to it? So I would say this is a perfect example of where culture of care, of learning, those four things,
mm.
mindsets, communication, belonging, and professional growth are going to be really important.
What a gorgeous framework.
Thank you.
And
I love it too. I think
it-
it's so good.
it's so balanced and it's so what we hope to see in our classroom. So, how lovely to model it. And I found that I wrote time and I just kept putting boxes around time as you were
Yeah.
speaking.
Yep.
Because I'm part of this AI think tank right now, and I'm talking with teachers and school leaders who are thinking about their AI literacy, and they go, "Okay, well, I have an hour at the start of next year's PD. I've got 1 hour," and I'm like, "Ah." So I think like any leader listening to this is if you want to make it an authentic AI integration, it's not going to happen in a 1 hour PD meeting. It's going
It
to
is
be a
not.
multi-year cultural shift.
Yes, yes. And you're going to need regular intervals of touching base on it, not forgetting and just assuming it's working in the background. But like I said, make it part of regular meeting structure, create committees or PLCs that are in it more and can give
Yes,
it more time than other people can't, but you've built it into an expectation already. It is already, you have to be in a PLC, you have to be in a committee. This is not an add on. This
right.
is you having some agency to say, this is what I care about and want to work extra on. Make sure when you look at your PD calendar for the year and you look at those half days or those days or whatever, like make it truly, it doesn't have to be your only initiative, your only focus, but it cannot just be expected to be operating in the background.
Totally. Oh, and it's going to take time in the short run, and it's going to save so much time in the long run. Like at Toddle, our goal is to save teachers 10 hours per week. And yes, that's possible. But I also think that first bit, that onboarding and that
Yeah,
it's painful and it's a process and it's a rethinking of how we teach and learn. But then you get that 10 hours back. So it's kind of,
absolutely.
it's an
Um,
investment.
it's what I talk about when I talk with teachers about the importance of conferencing and feedback.
Mm,
And not as like just at the end of a project, uh, but embedded into your daily or weekly routine of small bite size conferencing and feedback and the essentialness of that. And over again, teachers will say, I don't have time to put that in. Like my curriculum is so packed, I cannot carve out this amount of time to touch base with students in this way. And when they commit to it and when they do, it is one of those things where it does take more time to figure it out and do it and get your system, but then you actually can move faster through your curriculum
right.
because you are helping students at their point of need. And now with AI, maybe even more. So, um, yeah, it's the same thing. I think there are a lot of things in education like this where we have to make the time in the beginning so that we can really see the rewards of it later.
Woof. Well, it's such an exciting adventure. And I adore the way that you're thinking and talking about it. And just, I found this conversation to be so refreshing. And especially as this kind of, as we're transitioning into summer, schools are ending and people are really thinking about the year ahead. I think this conversation is just so perfectly timed. So I'm so appreciative of the work you're doing and your thinking.
Well, thank you, and again, thanks for touching base with me and letting me share my enthusiasm. I, as you can tell, am very enthusiastic about these things, so I really appreciate it. And um, what's next for you with AI?
AI literacy course, I think, is the big thing on my mind right now, is trying to create a foundational course, hopefully based on these OECD skills or the European Council, the
Yeah,
skills, and wrapping my brain around how do you do that in a way that is comprehensive while still really accessible, and the tension there of what do you prioritize, comprehensiveness or accessibility?
Oh, good luck on that.
Yeah, how about you? What's on your plate?
um, right now I don't know that I can name the school, so I won't, but I'm working right now with a school that I'm really excited about. This is a very, very large public school, high school, and they are trying to reimagine, um, instead of semester or year-long courses, breaking breaking down requirements almost modularly,
Oh, cool.
letting students pick and choose around different things and crafting their own like really truly their own learning pathway, and having them not time based, uh, and having them be rich performance assessment based. And in order to figure this out, we are using a ton of AI,
Cool.
to help us see like what's possible and how we can craft these modules. And it's really been very interesting and exciting to me.
Man, that sounds so cool.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, again, at my job at Redesign, we have a subscription service for schools that are, doing competency based education. And we have these different learning pathways they can do. But I've been creating all these competency based coaches so that they can respond to an individual, school or school leader or teacher's context within that specific lever of competency based education that they're doing. And so I've been building a lot in AI, and that has also been really fun.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, your passion just shines through, my friend, and I'm so excited to see the work you do. And I would love to get you back to do a webinar to chat more with our audience, because I think it's just a cool frame that you're bringing to all this. So thank
I
you
would
so
love
much
to
for this.
do it. And if you want, any feedback on whatever you create, tap me for that as well. Happy to give it.
I will. Well,
All
thanks so much.
right. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.